So everyone, thank you so much for coming. I think everybody in the room, so that's wonderful, and we just appreciate you coming out. I think you all know that we have a new area director, Matt Perez. We'll hear from Matt in a minute, but I just wanted to give you a little bit. Some of you may know, but I'm just going to start at the beginning, give you a little history of Young Life in our community, and Young Life in general maybe, and introduce you also to Amy Smith, who is the Regional Committee Developer and Consultant.
Got it.
Did I get it?
Or Matt just calls me Committee Boss.
She's a committee boss.
Okay, I'll be Committee Boss.
So, no, I think it's a wonderful thing though, because there's a lot of Matts in the Western PA region, and Young Life's been in the Johnstown area for 22 years, and I think the other area directors that we've had haven't had maybe the support that would have helped them do their job better. So Amy has been hired to perform that duty for all the Matts in the Western PA region.
There's more than one Matt. Hi, Fred.
So just to give you some history, Young Life started in 1941. Based in Colorado Springs, in more than 100 countries, 30-some awesome camps around the globe, 27 of them in the States, and Camp Week is not what we focus on, but it's just a week that kids have the incredible time of their life, and so you'll hear more about that in a minute. These are pictures that Matt took last week at camp with kids from Johnstown, which Matt just started here 2 weeks ago, no, two months ago. And to be able to take 10 kids to camp and only being here for 2 months is unbelievable. So I think we have a great future in the Johnstown area for this ministry, and we're excited that you're here. And at the very end, we're going to give you a little piece of paper just to give us your name and your number and your email. We probably have them, but in case we don't, and then we can follow up and gauge your interest in participating in Young Life and keeping it a vital ministry in our community here. So, anything else that
No, that's great.
So Matt is going to take over and talk about what Young Life is and the 5 C's, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming, everybody. I know pretty much all of you, I think, except for you two. But we'll meet. But I appreciate you guys coming in.
Right, you don't want to know.
I don't want to know that. Okay. So I'll stay far away.
I'm kidding.
No, but I just, we're excited to be in Johnstown again. You know, I look back and see the history and, you know, all that God's been doing in Johnstown. So it just gets me excited and stirred that God would call someone like me to an area like this. I've enjoyed the last 2 months in Johnstown and hanging out with the kids you guys saw in the pictures, and just wanted to share the way that Young Life functions. It's called the 5 C's. If you got a little booklet, it's in there, but we'll go through it. But Young Life, our mission is to introduce adolescents to Jesus to help them grow in their faith. We're about every kid. Doesn't matter about what background or where they're at in terms of their faith, and they could have no relationship with the Lord, and we're just about loving every kid where they're at. And so we're excited to be in the schools. I'll go through the 5 C's real quick if you don't know what they are. The 5 C's are Young Life: camp, club, campaigners, contact work, and committee. Those are all ways that we function in this area, and different ways that you, your friends, your families, people you know, people you work with can get involved with Young Life. Make sense so far?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So a little bit about camp. Young Life creates, if you've never seen them, I think pretty much everybody has here, but they design these resort-style camps all over the world, different countries, international mission, nonprofit organization. And we just went last week to Michigan, and we had a blast. We took 10 kids, like Dave said. But good time, top-notch speakers, club, DJs, little, what are they called? Glow sticks. Glow sticks. It's a blast. It's a blast. So different things that you can do at camp. You know, besides going to camp, kids can do work crew where they go and serve. Kids during camp, summer staff, where we go serve. You know, I'll go away in the summer and go serve at a camp for a couple of weeks. Different stuff like that. So that's camp. Club is amazing. I invite you guys all to come when we start club. Our hope, so be praying, is this next school year that's coming up to start club in Johnstown area. So club, picture, I think the best way to put it is youth group for all kids. Doesn't matter church or unchurched kids. Hype time, wild games, dirty games, messy games. We like to be in students' homes. We in the community, high school base, tons of skits and games and surprises and all kinds of messy stuff and fun stuff. Kids that just get wild, and everybody can get wild. You actually look more weird if you don't get wild than if you just get wild with us. So, and then throughout the semester and the school year, we present different pieces of the gospel. So they do get, little things like that, worship times, stuff like that. So that's club. Campaigners, we're actually launching this Sunday for the first time in a while. We're going to launch Campaigners. So we'll be in different people's homes. And if you follow our Instagram, that's where we'll post a lot of stuff on our social media, Facebook, Instagram. But we'll launch that this Sunday, 5 to 7 every Sunday. This week we'll be at a Franklin Street church right here downtown. So that's the time to just help kids grow in their faith, talk about hard topics, go through the Bible, go through books, whatever kids are kind of wanting to talk about. So we're excited to launch that. So be praying for that. Contact work, going where kids are, going to games, being that guy, hey, who's that bald-headed guy with the beard at the baseball game? Why is he there? Well, a lot of times that's me right now. But just building with kids, loving on kids, going to games, going out to eat. We love to eat, good food. So if you want to know where good food is at, we know because we're always going to good food spots. So, but we like to do life on life discipleship, go to the gym, go grocery shopping, go get some shoes, just be with kids, and then to show them the love of Jesus. So, we just think that building that kind of relationship and investment helps us to pour into kids. Committee, that's partially a big piece of why we're here tonight, actually, is to talk about committee. But committee is just a way for you guys, adults, to be involved in Young Life, what we do. I think the Young Life would function better with a well-oiled machine, and that's committee. I think committee helps the organization function and flow in the area. So this is kind of some of the things that committee is involved in, supporting the area director and leaders and help run events, and they'll talk more about that, Amy and Dave will. So that's that. Some of our fundraisers that we do throughout the year, and another way for you guys to get involved. Fall banquet, golf outing, spaghetti dinner's new. We'll do that in February, this coming February, and then a soccer tournament that we just had. So those are other ways to get involved. This was us. There's me, right there, looking good. Those are our guys. We pray for those kids. Those kids are pretty on fire. A couple of them recommitted their lives to the Lord this week, and a lot of them will be coming to Campaigners on Sunday. And so we're just excited. 3 schools are represented in the Westmont, JCS, and Bishop McCord. And so I think historically Young Life has been in Westmont, Richland, Forest Hills. And recently we've developed a relationship with Johnstown School District and JCS. And so we're just excited for what God's going to do. We actually have an in officially at Richland School. One of the teachers is going to be our teacher advisor to have Young Life function in Richland this year. So God's doing a lot of things, opening some cool doors. If you don't have mine or Dave's contact information, there it is there, our website. It's a work in progress, but you can go on there and check stuff out as well as our social media. But I just want to say thank you guys for coming, and just continue to pray for us as we are led by the Lord and what He's doing in Johnstown. So I think that's all I got for you guys. I think that's my little spiel. We're going to have, I just met her, so I forgot how to say her name.
That's okay.
Yeah, Lakin. Okay, so yeah, let's welcome her up. She'll come.
We did just meet, guys. It's okay.
Yeah.
I've just met a couple of you as well, so if I forget your names, I apologize. But it's really nice to be here tonight with all of you. Sorry, what's
No,
right
you're
in front
good.
of the
You're
thing.
fine.
It's really nice to be here. I was just telling Amy and Mr. and Mrs. Williams tonight, it's just that Young Life is my favorite thing to talk about, so I will do this forever. So if I ramble on, I apologize. But it really is just something in my life that has been so wonderful and done so many great things. And I know that for people in my life other than me, it has done great things, and just getting to watch that has been great. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about it. So Young Life has meant a lot to me ever since we had club at my house. And I have 3 older siblings, and I kind of just heard music blasting, and I'm hearing people that are eating like 20 bananas at a time, and you really don't know what's going on. The house is shaking, and it's just crazy, and it's the most fun thing to be a part of that you can even imagine. When he talked about club, it's really just indescribable. You don't know where to begin when you really start to talk about those events that we do. And when I got to high school and I could finally do Young Life for myself and experience it outside of just like my siblings and having it in my house, it kind of got to be not only this fun thing that I got to like listen to and hear about, but I got to see the real purpose of it as well, and that was bringing Jesus into the lives of young people like me and just seeing what that does. So I wanted to talk about that. And I think that's something we really gloss over because we're talking about how much fun all these events are, is that Young Life for me in my life and for the lives of my friends that have been involved with it as well, shows young people that this misconception that when you live a life like sold out to Jesus, that it's boring, or that it voids all your fun, and you can't, they think the Bible is a rule book, that you can't do this and you can't do that, rather than a love letter as to how Jesus has poured himself out to you. And I think Young Life just brings fun back to faith and really shows young people that just because, you are giving your life away, it doesn't mean that it's not the best thing that you'll do with it. I think another thing that is a common misconception about it is, just what it is and why is this man just gonna hang out with your kids? So, and how does that work? And how do you begin with that? And I really honestly don't know if I have a for sure answer on a lot of things. I'll get back to you. But really, my Young Life leader, I know, if anyone knows Abby Harris, you know that she was fantastic. I know that we just met, but I know that you're going to be the exact same way, is the way that Young Life leaders and everyone that I've had the opportunity to work with, even in Pittsburgh. I go to Duquesne University now, and I'm involved in Young Life College, which is really great. Every single Young Life leader that I've ever had a relationship with just pours love to kids. And especially in high school, when kids, myself included when I was in high school and continue to, we all have this issue, is just, kids are giving their worth to things that cannot fulfill them. It's grades, it's sports, it's relationships, it's friends, it's all these things that can't give them life back. And I think what Young Life does, and what a Young Life leader who is showing kids what life with God looks like does, is showing them to live a full life, you need to give your worth to something bigger than you, and that you can do it and still have fun, and you can do it and build friendships, and you can do it and have this community that is welcoming, and that is loving, that is accepting, and is just the place that you want to be. So I think that another thing is high school kids, from all walks of life, from all family backgrounds, from all different situations, you never know what someone is going through. And to have this outlet, this person, and this place where all of that can just kind of be given, to God, and be given away for a minute just for you to be present in the moment, that the way that you are in Young Life is just priceless, and it's not something that you're gonna get anywhere else quite like you do at Young Life. So for me, that's what it was. It was just this place and these people where you could come, and it's kids that you never hung out with at your school before. It's creating this community that you never thought that you could have, and like I said, it's really a feeling unlike any other. And when you are living life with other people who are in the same path for the Lord, it spurs you on in a way that, nothing else can. You have to do that in community. You have to do it with mentors. You have to do it with that guidance and that love. And to stay on the right track and to keep doing it for the rest of your life. And like I said, it's the best thing you can do with it. So honestly, that's all I got. If you guys have any questions, I can give you my number as well. I don't know if there's anything I can answer that anyone here can't answer for you either, but like I said, I'll talk about it forever. So.
You could even stay up here and just be one of the people that answers questions too. Because there might be some
well,
questions.
I will be asking them.
Right, so you can kind of, feel free to jump in.
I think that's where we are, right? We're going to ask some questions next.
Yes, we are. Cool.
And then we're going to keep the best for last, because Amy's going to share with you at the end here. But
No pressure.
Until then, the three of us are just going to tag team some questions just to educate you a little bit about Young Life, some things that maybe you didn't know.
I was looking through these, and
Do we have
some of
all
these
of
I'm like, can I answer them? I don't know. So this will be interesting.
Maybe not.
So maybe I will be learning as well.
And do we have all the questions from every grade?
Yes. Does anyone have any more that they wanted to write down? We have cards,
Okay.
or we can just ask them at the end. Okay. So we'll start with, where do Young Life leaders come from?
And the answer is not Mars, right?
I think this area, Johnstown, from churches, schools, friends, family, relationships. I think that's where a lot of them come out of, is people that know people that think, hey, this person would be great to invest in kids and live in kids and share the gospel and show them Jesus.
And right now, you're it.
Yeah, and right now in
Staff
Johnstown,
person
I'm
and
it.
no volunteer
Yeah,
leaders.
no
So
leaders in that
we
area
would
currently.
love
Yeah.
some volunteer leaders, because obviously the more people we have, the more kids we reach.
In a lot of areas, I'll just add to that quickly, in a lot of areas, Young Life leaders come from local colleges. That just is true, I think.
Mhm.
But I have seen some phenomenal Young Life leaders that are older than me taking kids to Young Life camp, having the time of their life, pointing kids to Jesus. So you can be anybody. If you like kids, you can be a Young Life leader. So.
Yep.
Yeah. That's the other thing. I didn't say that when I was talking, but a Young Life leader, like, I don't even, call it that. Like, they call people that half the time. It's really, they're your friend, and it's the coolest thing ever. It's that relationship that you can't really even give a title to. So, anyways, okay. What happens at campaigners, and where do you meet?
So I guess it's a meeting.
That's you.
Yeah, so campaigners is a time for us to just grow in the Word and grow in relationship with each other, grow in our faith, and hopefully for some kids come to know Jesus. Where we meet, we'll meet the first one at Franklin Street Church downtown, but the hope is every Sunday to be at different places in the community, kids' homes, people we know like you guys can open up your homes and your yards, and we'll meet like that in people's houses.
I had a little thought there. Campaigners grows out of club, so as kids get to know and just get more curious, then the young leader will mention the campaigners happening. So anyone that is just curious and wants to grow a little deeper in their faith will check out campaigners.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun to think of it like a funnel, because you heard Matt talk about the 5 C's, and if you think about contact work, he's out there with kids and there's a big group and he's trying to meet as many as he can, and that's sort of the top of the funnel. And then club, you try to get kids to come to club and get them to bring their friends, and then campaigners is even a little deeper than that. And so those are kids who are saying, like, I heard something at club and I want to know more and I want to dig in. So it's, as we kind of think of it like that, contact work is for everyone, and then club, and then campaigners is for kids that are looking for something more.
That's why she's the boss.
No. Campaigners is the best. Campaigners is fantastic. It was always my favorite day of the week. Okay, I don't really have time to invest, but do want to contribute something. What can I do?
Okay, I'll take that one. So we're going to talk a little bit later about committee and the formal roles that you can have on committee, but for every person that's on the committee, we also would love to have a small team that supports that role. So for example, if there's a fundraising team, if there's a staff care team, whatever, if you don't have much time, you could work on one of those teams and just give a couple hours a month on your own time, whatever that looks like. We are always looking for donors. We're going to talk about how funding works and why that matters, and so that's another way that people can give. Absolutely just be a person of prayer. We know that this ministry does not work unless there is a group of people praying fervently for Matt, for future leaders, for the committee, for kids. So there's so many different ways to engage. You don't have to have 20 hours a month to get involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know why I just thought of this right now, but I didn't say this before. Right now, it is only Matt. But in the history of the 22 years in Johnstown, I think you're either the 5th or 6th area director that we've had. And I tried to count one time how many leaders that we've had also volunteering their time, loving on kids. It's over 40. 40, 45 is what I could come up with, and I'm sure that I missed some. So, you know, it will grow,
Yeah.
but Matt's been here 2 months, and he's meeting people, and, you know, we're going to raise up some leaders, and we're going to get in lots of schools. So.
Okay. Why are adults needed and how can I get involved? That's kind of similar, but yeah.
Yeah, in fact, I'm going to hold off on that one because
Okay.
I'll give that little pitch right after this.
Ooh. Where to begin? What is camp all about?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of fresh. We just went to camp, so I guess I'll speak to camp. Camp is about, I mean, camp is really designed for unchurched kids to just have a good time and just pretty much be, just like safe space to be themselves, be loved on by leaders all throughout the region. And, you know, each night we do club, and each night they hear a piece of the gospel, and you know, later on during the week, they present the gospel to them and get a chance to accept Jesus in their lives. And we had a couple kids come to know the Lord this last week, but it's really designed for that to grow in relationship with each other, with the Lord. You know, just a safe space to be. Really, is probably the best way to describe it. And no judgment. Like you're just wild the whole time. It's just a wild time. It's hard to put into words. Like what you were saying, it really is just nonstop go, and you're just full throttle.
You were saying you were shocked that no one else got like hurt at camp this year. Just because of how it is.
Yeah, you
Cell
just go.
phones get collected
we
at the
take
beginning of the
phones and
week.
you just like things are stripped away, and you're like totally outside of everything that you know on the day to day, and you just grow. Like every kid, no matter where they're at with their faith, you know, it's like time to just grow and just be.
Yeah.
I have never eaten more in a week in my life than I ate during my week at Young Life, because you're so active. You're just constantly moving, constantly doing something. And I'm looking at myself thinking, how am I eating all this food? You know? So,
I think COVID ruined going in family style with the desserts though. So that's unfortunate.
well,
But
that'll change back.
yeah, we'll get back to it.
Well,
Yeah.
they don't know the schedule either, so everything is kind of a surprise.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have no idea what's
And
happening.
when they ask, what is it that they say?
Big
Lunch is
wow
at
factor.
Dinner's at 6.
dinner's at 6.
Oh, see, no, breakfast. It was always breakfast, at 9. Yeah.
Breakfast at
For me, it was always
9.
breakfast
Maybe it
at 9.
was breakfast
And
at
it's
9.
really funny
I
because,
can't
like, just
remember.
between you and me, don't tell anyone else this, don't tell the kids this, but like breakfast is not even at 9.
Yeah.
It's like even that little piece of the puzzle that you get is just not true. And it's fantastic.
Yeah, we told our kids, because I didn't know that slogan, but I just said, hey, just be this week, and like you'll know where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there,
Yeah.
and just be. And the kids did it,
Yeah.
and they were so surprised every moment.
Yeah.
Like, all right, go run to the cabin and throw on this. to
Every
wear."
time that
Yeah.
you think like you can't do something else that just makes no sense or is just they'll pull something out and you just have no idea what is next.
They're like, how are they going to top this tomorrow? And
Right.
then they do.
And then they do.
Yeah.
Exactly. It really is. You know, you get told as a high school, like as a kid going to camp, that like it's the best week of your life, and you're like, okay, that's good advertising. Like that's a good slogan. It's the best week of your life, but it really is the best week of your life.
Even being an adult, like going to camp as an adult to see what's going on, it was amazing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah, it's a whole new reality. But
Yeah.
the best thing ever. Okay.
I had a kid say, I wish every single day could be like this.
Aw.
Like just the environment. Like how everybody's so nice to each other. And it's just a whole different way that everybody approaches one another.
Yeah.
People you don't even know just
Brian was one of
approaching
the
you
leaders at
that way. I mean,
Is
it's
that Flick?
awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey.
I can't-
Yeah, that coming together.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
That's not good.
Oh
Sorry.
my gosh.
Yeah, no, it's good. No, we had kids saying, "Hey, could we do another week?" Because they were like talking about having work crew, and kids were like, "Can we stay another week?" I was like, "Nah, you gotta go home. Maybe next year."
Yeah.
It really is the best. Okay. The difference between club and campaigners, what's the difference? I could talk about that.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay,
I think you have
so-
to move in a little bit because I don't think the camera catches you.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
so sorry.
Yeah, you're fine.
Sorry, guys. Okay.
Look at the
I
voice.
kind of forgot we were being filmed.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so club, like we talked about, is kind of just that bigger event that happens every week, and you really just try to get the word out however you can, and everyone is coming to club, and you're playing games, and you're singing songs, and you kind of just get like a little taste of a message there of the gospel. And then those kids that hear that and are really interested in more, we have announcements at club towards the end of the songs and the games and all of that kind of tell them, hey, if you want to hear more about this, you should come to campaigners. And we explain just that it is kind of more of a chiller time. You just kind of sit and you talk, and what Matt said, like whatever the kids want to talk about and whatever's on their mind and their hearts is kind of what gets brought up at campaigners. And it's just a safe space to share and really just have one night a week where you just kind of slow down and get to talk about life and God and grow closer to one another. So that's kind of the difference there, the funnel that you talked about. Anything to add?
No,
Anything?
that's good.
Okay. How is Young Life different from my youth group?
That's good.
Yeah, so I'll give a quick shot at that. The one thing that intrigued me about Young Life when I got involved is the element of surprise. I think you just sort of alluded to that. When kids are at camp, they're in the middle of an activity, and all of a sudden somebody says, all right, we're doing this. And the kids are all, what? You know, and all of a sudden, whoosh, the whole 450 kids go off to do something else. And so it's an element of surprise, and you include that in club, too, the weekly club. And that's why, you know, you have club, let's just say on a Monday night, Tuesday morning at school, sort of the goal of club is to have kids walk into school saying, can you believe we did that last night? Can you believe that happened? Wow. So that element of surprise, I think, is what one really unique factor. And again, Young Life's for everybody too. You know, every single kid in that school can come to Young Life Club and feel loved and welcomed and have a new community, like you alluded to, Lakin. So, anybody else?
I love that. And I think too, Young Life, first and foremost, goes to kids. And so, you know, Young Life looks like people at games, at coffee shops, hanging at the school, whatever. And that's not to say youth groups, you know, I know great youth group leaders that do that as well. But a lot of times youth groups are for kids who are ready to be in the church, and Young Life will go after the kid who has never been in a church, and that's okay. And sometimes I can remember when I was a wildlife leader and I got a call from a mom that said, did you know there were kids swearing outside the wildlife club room? And my response was like, yeah, isn't that amazing that those kids came to Wildlife Club? Like, that's a good thing. And it can be a little hard for churched kids, but it's also great for those kids to start to develop that outlook of getting their kids to understand who Jesus is and what he did. So,
Well, you said one thing, Amy, I just wanted to jump on to. The Young Life was started by a guy by the name of Jim Rayburn, who was a youth pastor who used to drive from his home to his church and go past the playground, and he would say, okay, these kids aren't coming to me at our church. I'm going to go to them. And so that's where the premise of Young Life started in 1941. And so that's what Matt and all the Matts in the world are out there following Jim Rayburn's example of let's go to where the kids are.
Yep.
Yeah, but Dave, I want to speak to that real too, because I've been on both sides. Like, if you have a large church, it's easy to have a youth group.
Yeah,
You have a small church, you don't have the resources to do it.
right.
Right.
And Young Life or FCA can meet that void in a
Yes.
smaller church. And I think it's like
That's a great
80% of the churches in America are under 200.
Yeah,
So I think it meets a need
Yeah.
that churches can't meet.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
That's great.
Thanks, Ray.
All right. What is a table host?
So, a table host, one thing that all of us can do as adults in our community, we all have spheres of influence, right? So being able to be a table host for our annual banquet is huge because it expands our sphere of influence. So our committee members are only, we only know so many people. But if you guys would be interested in being a table host, we're going to we haven't set the date yet, sorry, Matt. October or November, we're going to have a banquet. But to host a table is just to say, I'll go recruit a couple people that I know that might be interested in this ministry and want to learn more about Young Life. That's what a table host is. So we just, and me as the committee chairman, need to do better at the table host model of getting people to come to a banquet. So I just wanted to address that a little bit.
And we do promise, banquets are fun. They're not this like, dry.
Yeah.
They're really a lot of
Matt's
fun,
gonna
very
sing
celebratory, so it's really fun to.
This was from the banquet. Cool t-shirt.
Okay,
Get a
nice.
cool t-shirt. if
That's
nothing else.
right.
So you can know when you're inviting friends that they're going to enjoy the night.
Yeah.
It is very fun. How is Young Life funded, and why are there Young Life fundraiser events?
So I can speak to that a little bit. Young Life is funded locally. There's no money coming from Young Life on high trickling down to pay Matt. A Young Life budget, and Matt, what is the Johnstown Young Life budget? $84,000, and that pays Matt, his benefits, pays for all the expenses that happen with Young Life. It's all the legal, financial, administrative support systems, all that. So it's actually a really great deal. But locally, Johnstown community funds that budget. Matt is responsible for bringing in $20,000 from his family and friends and sphere of influence. And then the Johnstown area that says, we know Johnstown's a better place because Young Life is here, says we're going to have a banquet, we're going to have a golf event, we're going to run a soccer tournament, we're going to have a spaghetti dinner, we're going to talk to people about saying, hey, would you be willing to invest in Young Life at $100 a month or something like that? That's how a Young Life budget is funded in any given area.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Okay,
You hit it.
there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, talking about budget and that, how's the tuition for a camp come up? I'm sure each child needs so much.
Yeah, so we do our week-long summer camp, and then we also do a fall weekend and probably another getaway. But
And you're asking how that gets funded?
Yeah.
Okay.
so a lot of times it's the kids and their kids' personal fundraising, or their parents, or local donors or churches that sponsor kids. We have what's called campership. Sometimes different areas in Young Life will give to an area. Sometimes churches in the area will
So
sponsor
that
kids.
doesn't come out of the budget. That's
No.
over and above.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, and in Johnstown, you may find that you need to raise that 84, but you might need to raise an additional 6 if you want to make sure that, it's never an impediment for a kid
Right.
to go to one of those. But that's also a great thing to talk with churches about. Sometimes it's hard to explain to a church exactly how Young Life Ministry works, but it's pretty easy to explain that we want to get kids to camp, and it costs $700 to do it. Would you as a church sponsor 1 or 2 kids? And like if you can get local churches to say, I get that, this is amazing, yes, we could do that. Sometimes that's the best funding model for camp and fall weekend and those kind of trips.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we just took 10 kids to camp, and most of the kids that went to camp were sponsored through different churches in the area and local families. So.
Yeah. I've never heard of a kid wanting to go to camp that could not go, even if they weren't blessed enough that their parents could maybe pay for some of it or any of that. There's never happened that I can think of.
Yeah, we were telling kids you're going to camp, and we didn't know where the money came from, and churches and people were like, all right, we'll sponsor them to go to camp. So we always get them there. The Lord always provides.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like 2 full buses.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, these kids.
Wow.
Yeah. The bus is a fun part of camp too.
Oh, absolutely.
The bus is fantastic. We played werewolf for like 3 hours on the bus.
The year you went to camp, Brian, probably about 70 kids.
Let's see, the first year I went was 2015. There was probably at least 70. There might have been 80 at that point. And then the last year, I think there was, 50, 60 over there? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we'll get there again.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah, no doubts. That was all of our pre-made questions
Okay.
besides talking about the adults.
Okay.
So yeah.
Any impromptu questions for the panel? What?
I thought maybe Larry did too.
Oh.
I just wrote down one. I know I talked to Matt a little bit about it, just in discussion, and I've talked with other organizations too about partnering together with fundraising. You know, I know Dave well, and he helps with some of the stuff we do at EC Men, and helped him line the soccer fields down there, so he needed some help that day. And I think sometimes we get into a point where there's a lot of people that'll, a few people that'll do the volunteering, but maybe it doesn't need to be just for Young Life,
Right.
or just for EC Men, or just for FCA. If we could pool,
Love that.
pull a group of people together that would help all of these Christian organizations get done what they need done. You know, I was available during the day because of my work schedule to help him. Most people aren't.
Right.
So I'm really not too involved with Young Life, but would love to be able to help in,
Yeah.
in opportunities like that. And of course, these other organizations might. So I wonder if you guys ever thought about that, partnering together.
We're actually doing a lot of that in and around Pittsburgh. That's where I'm from. And so
Okay.
we have run multiple fundraising activities where like an organization that is well known in a community, if Young Life is fairly new there, we will build that relationship and ask if we can do an event together. And so that's worked out really well. And then we are working more in the urban settings of kind of seeing where is God already working? Where is the kingdom already being built in this city? And can we as Young Life just come alongside? We don't even need to carry the Young Life banner. We just want to partner with what's already happening. So that's new. Young Life for a long time was, I say, even a titch arrogant about like, we are the single best way that kids meet Jesus. And we are humbly backing away from that and realizing, you know what, the Lord works through a lot of other great organizations as well. And so but that's a newer initiative. And I have a great job for you on committee, so you're gonna hear me pitch, and there is an actual role called community engagement, and finding ways to partner, so.
Yeah. So very good segue.
There we go.
Into, thank you,
Yeah.
Lakin.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Of course, thank you guys.
Yeah, so what I get to do is just develop and consult with committees and help those committees really bring energy and excitement to local Young Life ministry. So what is a committee? And we always say committees are really the linchpin of local ministries. If you think of a linchpin, that's that little thing that holds an axle and a wheel together so that things keep moving, without which, it all falls apart. So basically that linchpin is that unifying force that holds parts together to keep working. And that's really what committees do. Anyone on a Young Life committee loves their community, loves kids, loves Jesus, and wants every kid in that community, and maybe even beyond that community, to have an opportunity to hear the gospel and be introduced to Jesus, be discipled, walked alongside, and help them grow in their faith. So committee members are really passionate about those things. More specifically, committees provide the foundational support of prayer, advocacy, introductions to people in schools and local business owners and local government, and just finds ways to provide the structure that sets Matt and any future leaders up well. And so without committees, Matt's doing it all. And as you can imagine, what we want Matt to be doing is hanging out with kids. We want him to be at the schools. We want him to be, hanging out at the stands and in the coffee shops. We want him to be planning club. We want him to be leading campaigners. We want him to be discipling kids. If he also has to raise his entire budget and figure out how to meet the right people and figure out like all that kind of stuff on his own, then the actual amount of ministry getting done is rather small. And he's probably not going to last here long. And so that's another reason why committees are really important. But I will say, we started out talking about committees like, you're going to be the task people that provide that foundation, and you're going to be the fundraisers. And while that's true, what we found is that the culture of committees can be the biggest blessing of all. We're finding that committees are people who really love being together, who really enjoy the idea that they are kingdom building in their community for the greater good. that they are praying together, that they're sharing life, that they're walking alongside one another in the good and the bad, that they are loving their staff people and leaders. Like, it is such a blessing to get to be a part of a committee. So I would just encourage, we are going to talk about some of the tasks that have to be done, but honestly, if you can build an Acts 2 kind of community where you are fellowshipping together and eating and praying and just living life, you'll be more blessed than even what you're bringing to the ministry. But I promise you, Matt will be blessed, and in turn, any future leaders will be blessed, and more kids will hear the gospel. So that's really, I would just say, culturally, we want to build a committee where you love being together, and other people look and say, wow, those are people I want to be with. Those are people I want to hang out with. So it's kind of that winsome nature of the work that you can do in Young Life, and building that culture. So when we talk about what a committee is, basically you're on mission. You are commissioned to do the work of building the kingdom here. You're excited about that, and it is that Acts 2 community. And if you look at this card that you hopefully picked up on the way in, it's colorful in the front, but we're going to look at this part, and if you don't have glasses, you might have a hard time reading it. But at the top, you'll see what the mission statement is. But when we talk about Young Life Committee, we're not going to soft pedal it. It's a 3-faceted commitment, and that's what those 3 shapes are. So when we look at that rectangle, there's a collective commitment that you make if you're on a Young Life Committee. And basically that's just saying, I'm going to share in this ministry with Matt. Like, we're going to own it and share it with him. And what does that look like? Well, that's an acrostic. So share, it means that you support the Young Life mission, model, and method. What is that? That means you support the fact that Matt is just hanging out with kids all over the community, that's how he spends his time. He's not sitting in an office. You don't expect him to sit in an office. And I would also say club is really exciting, but we have areas that basically it's 2 or 3 years where it's just contact work. Like, we're not ready for club yet. And so to kind of have that mindset and understand that the method and model of Young Life is Matt hanging out with kids, doing ministry the way Jesus did ministry, being where they are, having great conversations, asking a lot of questions. So as a committee member, you're saying, yep, I support that. I support that mission, model, and method. And then we help fill the gaps. Matt is amazing, but he can't be all things to all people. And so where can we as a committee, instead of just saying, you should do this, Matt, or you should try this, or you should meet with this person, how about you're on committee, you're commissioned to do those things. You can go have a conversation with someone and invite them into helping with the ministry. You can have that conversation about becoming a donor. It's not just about telling Matt what he can do better, but it's filling the gaps by actually doing some of that work as a committee member. You're advocating, and this is that greatest, I think Lakin, you were saying, why is a guy just hanging out with high school kids?
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you it's so great when there's a team of adults who are helping people understand that. When someone says, have you seen that guy with a beard that's hanging out at the high school? And you're able to say, oh yeah, that's Matt. Matt works for Young Life, and the model is that he's hanging out and meeting kids there and whatever. So by being able to be advocates, that's huge. Everyone's favorite, raise the budget. Yes, committees help raise that budget so that Matt is freed up. He does have to raise a portion of his own, but the committee says, you know what? We know Young Life should be here, and we will do the work. And then lastly, encourage staff and leaders. And so it's so important that Matt feels part of the Johnstown community, so anyone who joins the committee can say, yeah, I'm about that. I will pray for him, we'll have him over for dinner, we'll introduce him to different people. When we go to a basketball game, we'll introduce our friends to him, and we will be a source of encouragement. So that's that sort of collective. If you're on the committee, you agree to that. Everyone on committee agrees to that. The second facet is an individual commitment. And this is where you get to bring your personal passion, energy, excitement, talent, and use it for the kingdom on the Young Life Committee. So for example, if you are an intercessor, you have that gift, you love to pray, you could serve as the prayer coordinator on the Johnstown Young Life Committee. And all that means is you lead the rest of the committee in that one aspect of committee work. It could be creating a prayer calendar. It could be, getting 3 or 4 groups from different churches praying, whatever that looks like. That's really the fun part, is that you get to design what it looks like. If you are the event coordinator, you get to be the person. It doesn't mean you're running the whole event by yourself, any of that. It just means you bring that skill set, like I love to plan events, and you use that for Young Life. And so we just say you commit to one role, you lead the committee in that role, and you take one action per month to advance Young Life in that role. And just think, if you have 10 people on committee, and over the course of the year, that's 120 tangible actions that have been taken to advance Young Life in Johnstown. I mean, it's super impactful. So that's what that looks like, and we're going to talk very briefly about what those roles are, but the last facet is that triangle, and that is like you get to do ministry with adults the way Matt and future leaders are doing it with kids. Just live life alongside adults. Be intentional about having coffee with people, talking about Young Life, talking about Jesus, talking about why you are the way you are and the hope that you have. And so it's just having that intentionality of being missional and incarnational with adults the way staff are with kids. So if you look at this side, these are really the 10 roles that make a committee a great committee. And I'm just going to fly through them really fast. One is committee chair. Dave, how long have you been the committee chair here?
5 or 6 years maybe.
Okay. And Dave's been amazing. And I don't know how much longer he'll do it, but it won't be for the rest of his life. So we're always looking for someone who says, like, yeah, I am so excited Young Life is here. And if you look at it, the committee chair is that visionary leader, working hand in hand with Matt, being the red hot vision carrier for what Young Life is, keeping you kind of meeting regularly, and it's just that, it's the glue of the committee. A finance chair, there's your money guru, monitoring finances, trying to figure out, okay, it looks like in 2 months we're going to be struggling, and having some strategies for, what do we do next? Or at least keeping the committee aware that, we're in the danger zone. I don't know if you know it, but if you're not a month ahead in your budget, Matt goes on reduced salary. So on top of not getting paid that much to begin with and working his tail off, if he's having trouble, if the area's having trouble raising the budget, then he's actually making less money to do all that, and that's really a struggle. The RCE stands for Relationship-Centered Engagement. We in Young Life want to treat our donors the way we would treat kids. We want relationships. We want them to understand how important they are, appreciate, inform, invite. And so the Relationship-Centered Engagement Coordinator knows the donor list and basically says, we appreciate our donors and we grow our donor base. In any given year, Young Life loses about 40% of their donors if we're not doing this well. And so it's really great to have that person who's looking at those names and saying, you know what, so-and-so dropped off, let's give them a call and see what's going on. The prayer chair, I talked about that earlier, so whatever that might look like, it's really fun to be that person and design, like, wow, how can we get the word out and how can we get more people praying? Communications chair, this one's great. This is, I called it the town crier. Like, how can we get Young Life in the local newspaper? How do we do a better job on social media? How do we just help people all over the area understand what Young Life is and what's happening? So if you're kind of into that, like, excitement PR mode, this would be a great role for you. The community chair is the one that I referred to when I pointed at you, and that's your people person that's a connector. What community-based organizations are already here? What churches are looking for? Posset Ray, I think you were just talking about, like, there are small churches that need help. So if we can come alongside and figure out, gosh, we could kind of be a youth group, we can invite your kids to things, we can be intentional about anything that's happening in Young Life. But also just look, like, what's the big deal in Johnstown? Is there anything, is there a July 4th parade? Is there some big event that happens? And how do we, as Young Life, figure out how to come alongside something that's already happening and be part of that? Leader care chair, that's like the people that just love to love on people. And so that's a really fun one. Maybe it's giving Matt an occasional gift card to something, a care package, just letting him know that he is supported here. Event chairs, we talked about, there's a banquet coming up. There's going to be a spaghetti dinner in the winter. There is the golf tournament in June, and then the soccer tournament in July. So there's 4 different events that require someone who is a coordinator. It doesn't mean they have to do it all themselves, but they're the ones that make that happen. And then a growth chair. Growth chair is just someone who kind of has their eye on the next thing. Who's our next committee person? What's our next school? You know, what next ministry could we start? Do we want to bring Young Life Capernaum here? Do we want to try to, you know, start Young Lives? There are so many different ministries that we could add. And then lastly, just data and administrative chair. And that's a great one for someone who just wants to do kind of on their own time. That's the keeper of lists. It matters that we have an up-to-date list of every donor, every church, our kids that are coming, and just continually keep that fresh and make sure that it's updated so we're not letting people slip through the cracks. We want to be able to share everything that's happening. So that is an ideal committee. An ideal committee has all 10 of these. The person's owning that role and leading committee in it and doing at least one thing per month to advance Young Life. I will tell you, we only have 3 committees in the region right now that have all 10 spots filled. So I'm not saying you can't have a committee without all 10 roles. It's our goal. And we would love to have, you know, at least 5 of them filled. So what I'm talking about here is if you are sitting here and you're thinking, I know Johnstown is better if Young Life is active here. I know Matt deserves a foundational support system so that Young Life ministry can grow and thrive. Then I would encourage you to really think about joining the committee. It is about an 8-hour commitment per month. That involves being in a meeting, and then it involves that one action that you're going to take, and it involves thinking about like maybe being a table host and inviting people to a banquet or whatever. It's about 8 hours per month. If you're the committee chair, it's a little more than that because you're also meeting with Matt. But it is not an overwhelming commitment. It's really a beautiful opportunity to engage. If that is not kind of your wheelhouse, or if you've been on the committee, and I don't know if there are any current committee members here, but you're thinking like, as you look at this and this 3-faceted commitment and you're thinking, this is maybe more than I'm able to do. And I've kind of done my thing and I did it well and we are grateful for that, but maybe you're thinking, I think I'm done. You know, I think I will step off at this point, or I'll step into a subcommittee role and just be on a team underneath someone else who's excited about that. If you're not sure, one of the things we're going to ask you to do is just continue the conversation with Matt or Dave. You know, would you be willing to sit down over coffee and just talk about what it might look like to be on committee? Maybe it looks a little different than that sheet, but you have some ideas. Dave and Matt talked earlier, maybe you could be a leader. We need some leaders, you know? If you love hanging out with kids and you can and have those conversations and spend time with kids and be excited about that, gosh, we would love to have you as leaders. Maybe you want to become a donor. If you don't currently give, but you recognize that need, think about that. Monthly donors are great. One-time gifts are great. Setting that up with 3 people from your church to talk about, that's a great way to build donors too. Be a prayer and an advocate. We hope at the very least that you would do that and just be praying for Matt and the team and future ministry here. And then I would say, I hope you'll come to the next meeting, which is already set. It's going to be August 20th at 10 a.m. at Franklin Street Church, right? Is that the right? Is that the?
Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah. And so, like, even if you're sitting here going, I'm not sure, I don't know, but would you commit to coming to one more meeting so to continue to talk through what this might look like? And could you possibly think about who else should be in the room tonight? And who else could be in that room that could hear about this? It might be, you know, a neighbor, a friend, a parent of a kid that you know is in middle school or high school. Could be a church friend, whatever. So the last thing on that note is this lovely response card. And so we would love for you to look at those. I believe I touched on each of the things that are on that. I did not put the banquet on here. So about halfway down, you'll see I'd like to help with the following fundraising events. If you're willing to help plan the event that's going to be in October probably, can you just jot that there? Because I didn't even give you a spot to check that, but say, just put, be a table host for the banquet or help with the banquet, something like that. Questions about anything I've just...
No, that was great.
Okay.
Thanks, Amy.
Yeah, for sure.
Great.
Thanks for being here.
Amy.
All right. Cool. Thanks, Amy, so much for coming out. And this is your first time in Johnstown, right?
It is my first time
Yeah.
in Johnstown.
So welcome to Johnstown. Yeah, but I just wanted to.
Dang it, 2 years.
Yeah, thank everybody for coming, and I appreciate everybody here and the relationships that we've built, and Ryan, the relationship that we're going to build. But I just want to close. Yeah, right. I just want to close out in prayer, but know that we're grateful for you guys and hope that we continue to build this for the kingdom. So yeah, let's pray. God, we thank you for everybody in this room. God, we ask that you would just speak clearly to who's supposed to join our team. And God, we just surrender to you. We give it to you. We trust you. We know that you got amazing plans for Johnstown and a purpose. And so we just ask that your will would be done. And we just surrender to you. We give it to you. God, we pray for everybody in this room, the safe travels as they leave. And God, would you speak to them, people that they could share about Young Life in Johnstown and what you're doing. So we love you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thanks for coming.
There's lots of food over here.
How do we?
Oh, and take food because it's
Oh yeah. Otherwise,
gonna get vibed up. I'm taking to the journey or something on Saturday.
Oh, really? It's on funny.
For the kingdom. So yeah, let's pray. God, we thank you for everybody in this room. God, we ask that you would just speak clearly to who's supposed to join our team. And God, we just surrender to you. We give it to you. We trust you. We know that you got amazing plans for Johnstown and a purpose. And so we just ask that your will would be done. And we just surrender to you. We give it to you. God, we pray for everybody in this room, the safe travels as they leave. And God, would you speak to them, people that they could share about Young Life in Johnstown and what you're doing. So we love you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thanks for coming.